The last time we saw Adele, Yara's friend, she was in the bar trying to protect her friend, quote unquote, from Jovi, who was so protective and so controlling. And the first time we met Yara's friend Adele, she was in the bar with her friend Symphony trying to convince Yara that she should leave Jovi and go out and explore the world because she's too hot and too perfect to be with her, acting as though she was some kind of demented guidance counselor. Now, the funny thing is that when somebody tries to sell you a bill of goods, recognize the fact that you're being sold. 2, you also want to recognize the fact that everything that glitters ain't gold. Hi, I'm James, and this is my take on reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Adele from 90 Day Fiance, and we're going to really get into how her legal troubles could actually impact and affect Jovi and Yara. Now, before we get started, I would just ask that if you're getting anything from the videos, mildly amused, any information, or maybe a different perspective that you haven't thought about, that you consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps the channel, it really helps me out, and you can hook a brother up and definitely help a brother out. So hit that HBO special and hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Let's get it. Now, as we get started, let's create a baseline of understanding what we're talking about. Yara's friend Adele had been arrested by the federal government and their task force on charges of conspiracy with intent to possess and distribute a controlled substance, intent to distribute cocaine and heroin, unlawful use of communication facilities, and money laundering charges. She was arrested with 5 other individuals at apparently this big mansion that they had in Baton Rouge where they operated a lot of their stored and operated their drug business out of. What's crazy is when they went in and did the raid, they seized $250,000 in what they call drug profit. They also took luxury cars, and they seized cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, as well as 13 firearms. Why do I say that this is bad? The federal government, as well as this task force, have been looking at them and investigating them since 2017. It's 5 years ago, almost 6 years, that they've been looking into these individuals in connection to these crimes. The task force was comprised of the DEA, the ATF, Baton Rouge Police Department, as well as 2 different and separate sheriff departments. The only people that they didn't have involved in this investigation apparently was Spectre Gadget and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like, everybody was in on this. When you get arrested and charged with a crime, that doesn't mean, just because they read you the charge and you go to your arraignment, that doesn't mean that they're done. They can always come back and recharge you with other crimes. They can always add more information to the indictment or to the case and then come back and say, okay, yeah, we got her on all that stuff, but now we want to charge her with this. And this that I'm talking about is the 21 United States Code 848, which is the continuing criminal enterprise charge, or the kingpin statute. If found guilty of this particular charge, just this one charge, you could face a mandatory 30 years in prison to life. 30 years in jail or life. In order to be subject to this charge, you have to have an ongoing criminal enterprise that deals with controlled substances. You have to have 5 or more people. 6 people were arrested down there in that house in Louisiana in connection to this. And you have to have a substantial financial gain from being a part of this, whether it's financial or it can be resources, access to resources. They made note that they arrested 6 people. It was an ongoing thing that they had going on. They call the whole conspiracy elaborate, which goes into the whole idea of it being a conspiracy. In addition, when they seized the money, they said it was $250,000 of drug profit. Then they also said that they seized luxury vehicles. So you have the resources and you have a significant amount of cash. Looking at how Adele is set up, we don't know what position she had. Now, in order to get the kingpin, you also have to have a sense of either being a boss, a manager, or a person who's either coordinating or organizing the conspiracy and its organization. I don't know where she falls in this particular organization. What I do know is that they're saying that she lived in the house where the drugs were stored, her and another gentleman. I don't know whether she's in charge, whether she's a partner, or whether the guy she's living with is in charge. When push comes down to shove, if you go and you thugging in the streets and you live in that street life, and the police come and arrest you, and all of a sudden, this young lady, Adele, is facing 30 years to life. If she gets 30 years right now, she's about 30 some odd years old. If she gets 30 years to life, she'll be a senior citizen when she gets out of prison. They can put her in jail so long, her wrinkles will need Botox. So there's no way in the world when they come in there and they start talking about that heavy time that she's not going to start flipping. Like, this chick is going to flip like flapjack. Somebody going to tell. That's why they got 6 people, because they only need 5 in order for them to stick this kingpin charge on somebody. The big question is, how does this case affect Jovi and Yara? If you take a step back and really look at it from an objective perspective or point of view, Jovi and Yara would be people who are extremely interesting to the task force that was investigating Adele's criminal organization. They had been watching Adele since 2017. So I'm sure that Jovi and Yara, especially Yara, appear constantly in their photographs. When they go down there and they surveilling the house and they're watching them and they're going out to bars and they're following them to bars and tracking their phones and all that, they have wires on their phones. They have information on these 2 individuals, Jovi and Yara. They probably have about a 3-inch file down there at the task force. Why? Because they would be interesting to me. Jovi is a gentleman who has a job that takes him in and out of the country constantly. And he's out of the country for months at a time and he comes back. Not only does he leave to go out of the country for his work, but per his work, he's leaving to go in and out of the country carrying equipment. I'm sure the office and the job he has forces him to take equipment in and out of the country, and they're bouncing back and forth to wherever they're going and whatever they're doing. 2, he's married to a foreign national. Even though Yara has her green card, the very fact that she's from a different country, and the first thing she started talking about when she got her green card was, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to leave the country, I want to go leave the country. So from that perspective, they would be, the government would be making a horrible mistake if they didn't look into them. So they're getting looked at, and not only are they getting looked at, in most cases, they'll probably be people of interest that they would want to talk to. Using that same mentality, when we start to get into the whole way that Adele was presented to us, even from the rip, from the onset, when she first made her appearance on 90 Day Fiance, she came off like a person who was trying to sell these big ideas, these big dreams. Hey, why don't you leave Jovi? You could do this. And I remember the statement where she was saying, oh, this is how it works here. Somebody will come along and say, you and your baby, I want you to come live with me and I'll take care of you and blah, blah, blah. Was she talking about her friends? Was she talking about one of the guys that she got arrested with? Did she have somebody in mind who was going to take care of Yara? But it was a crazy amount of interest on behalf of these ladies in Yara. Because, I understand that, somebody could be fun and maybe you think that their boyfriend is a little controlling, but they took a lot of interest in making sure that Yara was on their side. And even the way Adele watched her, and I mentioned it in the last video, she watches Yara to see where she is, to get a temperature, and she's always kind of on Yara's side, always defending her, always making her feel like she's got her best interest at heart. And I think that there might be a deeper, darker motivation as to why she took such a strong interest in Yara. The darker motivation could simply be this: Yara is a person who she could use for her business. Her husband is a person she could use for her business. And when she talked about you could bring your daughter Mila and come stay with somebody, Mila's name would be transferred from Mila to Leverage, because that's what she would be. At the end of the day, with these types of business deals or whatever on the street, it starts out as an ask. I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to do that. I'm going to ask you, hey, why don't you come over to my house? Hey, you mind holding this package at your spot for a minute? I just got something going on at the house and I don't want to leave it there. And they drop a box off at your house. And the box got you playing in traffic now too. Or she says, hey, I want to buy this thing because she got money laundering charges. She got to turn that dirty cash into clean cash. Hey, I want to buy this thing. I want to put it in your name when I buy it because I want it to be a surprise. Is that okay? And Yara lets her do it. Now all of a sudden Yara is involved. And all they have to really do is just for the ass part is they don't just have to get you to take a taste. They don't have to get you to do the whole ride at the beginning. They just get you to do something illegal. And especially with Yara's position, because she's compromised. She's not an American citizen and she can get put out for any reason. So if she got her to hold something at her house or she got her to put something in her name, now all of a sudden you're part of the criminal enterprise and hey, I need you to do me this favor. I don't want to do that favor for you. Okay, if you don't do that favor for me, then I might just let the immigration people know that you're involved with some kind of drug transactions. Or they come to you and they start threatening you. It'd be a shame that, Jovi's mom, Gwen, she lives out in that house by herself. And a lot of times her husband works away from home and he's gone for weeks. It'd be a shame if something happened to her. Or it'd be a terrible thing if, a fire broke out in the house and she was in the house. Oh, people like that don't do that kind of crime. They only bring people in who want to be a part of it. No, they don't. No, they don't. Because the rule number one on the street is there are no rules on the street. There's no code of honor. There's no honor among thieves. This is a profit-driven business. So it's about making money. It's about making moves. You want to make as much money as you possibly can. If that requires you to step over top of Yara and Jovi and their kid, their daughter, and his mom or whoever, then that's what's going to happen. Part of the problem is that, especially here in America, we have a lot of shows and things like that glorify and glamorize a lot of the street, the gangster mentality. We think because you listen to Young Jeezy or 50 Cent or somebody, Eminem, and they talking about drugs and dope, that all of a sudden there's like a code of conduct. Or we watch Sons of Anarchy or Breaking Bad, and we see that these guys are making tons of money and they seem kind of cool and charismatic, and Jax Teller is a very handsome man, and oh my goodness, he's so good looking, and blah blah blah, and it's a wonderful thing, and they're good people, and they're just misunderstood. No, a lot of times they're really bad guys, and there are really bad people involved. Even if we give Adele the benefit of the doubt. She works with people and she most likely works for people who don't give a damn about Yara, which also gets kind of to the point of what kind of dummy is involved with this much trafficking. And you go on TV, usually people involved with this kind of stuff don't want nobody to know who they are. That's how you don't get caught. She like, I want to be a star. And she goes on TV and casts herself as the villain. What are you doing? You lunatic. Now, even at minimum, like one of the crazy things is people say, oh, well, Yara already got her green card, so she's clear. No, they can always reopen it. If she gets charged with a crime, then she could lose her green card status. Like, she's been in jeopardy, which kind of calls into question, too, why was Jovi so adamant about them not hanging out with these young ladies? Because it puts new light on it. Like, for instance, I thought maybe Jovi just didn't like the fact that the women were talking junk about him and he found out about it. But there is a possibility that Jovi knew exactly who this woman was. He knew exactly what they were about. And maybe the friends are involved in it too. And he knows exactly what they're about. And they're trying to pull his wife into it. Maybe his wife already knew what the friends were up to and what was going on. And they understood it. This may be far from over, especially with regards to the 90 Day Fiance franchise and the people who are involved, Jovi and Yara. But I'm telling you, this is crazy. This has been my take. I'm James. This is my take on reality. And I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I